I'm Mike, and today I am starting off my Diet Debunked series where I examine entire diets or specific dietary trends with an examination of bone broth. Yes, bone broth is still happening. So many people view it as some type of miracle food that is anti-aging, bone regenerating, joint healing, and from the book Nourishing Broth, which literally refers to it as the elixir of life, it can also heal wounds faster. Yes, folks, bone broth will give you the supernatural powers of Wolverine. How else do you think he gets the calcium to grow those claws? So we're going to look at a few bone broth health claims and see if they hold up to the views of the experts and simple logic, and also look at the potential dangers of making and drinking bone broth. A quick note before I get to the claims: the benefits of bone broth have not actually been scientifically measured. They are a bit more abstract.
I think it warms me and it makes me feel happy, and it kind of, it's a little nice thing to carry with you on your way.
Now this is where I could brutally contrast some horrifying slaughterhouse footage, but I'd like you to keep watching the video. Alright, claim number one, bone broth is a good source of calcium. Now I have to say, hyperdosing with calcium has never been a good idea. It can help harden our arteries. Oh wait, that's not even a concern here because bone broth has no calcium. You would have to drink 11 cups of bone broth to get your daily requirement of calcium. It's so low that, as this study shows, if you add vegetables to your bone broth, it increases the calcium level by 7 times. Even those nourishing broth ladies who believe it's the elixir of life don't claim that it has any significant amount of calcium, even after it's been cooked for so long that it becomes mushy. Instead, they fall back to, no, it's actually the collagen in the bone broth that makes your bones healthy, which brings me to claim number two. Collagen in bone broth helps skin, joints, and bones. This bone broth hype plays to people's oversimplified view of nutrition, with authors and bloggers claiming that bone broth collagen will make you look younger because it goes straight to your skin. This is that sort of eat that part of the animal and fix that part of me mentality, like eat an eyeball to get better eyesight, or eat some moose testicles to, well, you get the picture. But no, collagen is broken down into amino acids during digestion, which are then used all over the place, like normal amino acids. As Dr. William Percy, a biomedical scientist at the University of South Dakota who studies digestion, says, quote, "The idea that because bone broth or stock contains collagen, it somehow translates to collagen in the human body is nonsensical." Even mentioning that, quote, "collagen is actually a pretty poor source of amino acids." So bone broth is actually a poor source of collagen building blocks. Kanta Shelke, a food scientist and spokesperson for the Institute of Food Technologists, told NPR, quote, "Plants offer richer sources in collagen building blocks and, in addition, provide nutrients not found in sufficient quantities in meats or broth. Eating a diet rich in leafy green vegetables is ideal." If you're really looking for those anti-aging effects you might have been expecting in the collagen and bone broth, it's important to note, as this study showed, that those who eat the most antioxidant-rich vegetables end up with the least amount of DNA damage, which is, of course, one way we age. So to recap so far, plants have more calcium and are better for building collagen than bone broth. Okay, next claim, number three, bone broth cures colds. This claim can be traced back to this study on chicken soup and colds. The scientists say the soup lowered inflammation markers, which would help a cold. But how is that possible when chicken is one of the highest dietary sources of arachidonic acid, which is notoriously bad for inflammation? Well, it just so happens to be that it mostly wasn't chicken. It was also onion, sweet potatoes, parsnip, turnips, carrots, celery stems, and parsley, all anti-inflammatory foods that would counteract the effect of the chicken. Now, I could go on to tell you anecdotal stories like how on a vegan diet I haven't gotten sick this year yet at all, and most vegans say they get sick about half as much, but there are some more concrete ways that eating bone broth can increase infectious disease. First point, which is more indirect, 80% of antibiotics are given to livestock, and according to the FDA, about 70% of infections in hospitals are from antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Next, bone broth is, of course, an animal product, and here is a list of the top 10 most pathogenic foods. Notice a trend? There are about 1 million infections from animal products a year, making them the leading source of food poisoning, costing us billions of dollars a year. Okay, more directly is the danger from cross-contamination of making bone broth in your home. As this study shows, just handling frozen chicken in your household transfers antibiotic-resistant E. coli from the chicken to your butt, setting up shop in your gut, regardless of whether you eat it or not. And as this second study shows, cooking chicken in your kitchen allows multiple pathogens to make their way onto several surfaces throughout your kitchen, and it doesn't matter if you clean with hot water and detergent, they're still there. And let's be honest, nobody cleans that well every time they cook. So this is a horrible strategy to prevent a cold. Alright, now to our last claim, claim number 4. Eating bones is the missing health link. The main point here is that this bone broth hype is associated with a sort of appeal to history fallacy, that because people in the past ate bone broths, that we should, and also that throughout ancestral history, we were not just eating meat, we were eating the bones, so all of our problems are from not eating the bones. So does this paleo logic hold up? Does maybe the longest living population on Earth eat bone broths? No, the longest living population ever studied, the Adventist vegetarians, not only don't eat meat, but they also do not eat bones. Okay, now to another danger of bone broth, and that is lead exposure. I don't need to tell you how dangerous lead is, but I do need to tell you about a study that was done on organic chicken that found that the levels of lead in some of the broth was 10 times higher than the water that was used to make the broth. So it appears that, well, the precious calcium did not leach out of the bones into the bone broth. The lead does. The lead levels were not Flint, Michigan high. They were still under the EPA's safe level of drinking water. Not by much, but they were. But any opportunity to reduce lead exposure is a good idea. So bone broth, not a good idea, especially because that study was on organic chicken, and over 99% of chicken sold in the US is not organic. Now for one last negative effect of bone broth, and that is the cost. People are always saying that a vegan diet is expensive. Well, vegetarian diets in general have been shown to save you $750 a year. As this Mother Jones article calculated, a daily bone broth habit would cost $75 a month or $900 a year. Now zooming out to the bigger picture, I think a very ironic thing here is that bone broth is sort of looking for a solution in an animal product to a problem that is likely caused by animal products. Bad joints is a good example. Animal fat clogs arteries, which over time starves your cartilage, causing it to degrade throughout your body. As this study mentions, and I've mentioned before, 80% of people with chronic lower back pain have clogged spinal arteries, which leads to disc degeneration in a large portion of the population. A whole food plant-based diet, of course, scientifically proven to unclog arteries. Okay, now I cannot finish this video without mentioning that bone broth is literally a chunk of dead animal soaked in hot water. And that animal was once living and breathing, and people say, oh, bone broth is a great way to become more connected to the animals because you work with these bones that you normally don't see in food. But the reality is some small chunks of bone are still miles away from the living, breathing animal that was killed for no other reason than to eat it. This is where I tell you to go vegan. In conclusion, bone broths are nutritionally pointless, founded in pseudoscience, a risk for lead exposure, and frankly a misguided search for an animal product-based solution to problems that were likely caused by animal products, whether that is cartilage degeneration or the latest antibiotic-resistant infection. Alright, that's it for today. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know down below what you want to see in the next diet debunked video. I was thinking about doing the blood type diet, but I'm not sure if people still follow that, so let me know. Alright, thanks for watching.